Barcelona and Manchester United played out to a 2-2 draw at the Camp Nou last night in a Europa League fixture. In this video, we'll be taking a look at all the tactical problems and not a tactical analysis like we usually do, because there were so many problems with our tactics that was not necessarily influencing the game that much, but actually made a difference in the way that we played. But before we get into the video, please do subscribe to the channel, as it would help us a lot if you could just help the channel and subscribe and also help. So let's see how Xavi'S decisions influenced Barcelona's shape, and let's start with Ronald Araujo's positioning to see actually what was the problem with his positioning. Ronald Araujo played as a right back in this game, as he would play against Marcus Rashford as he normally do against Vinicius Jr. But Marcus Rashford actually played as a number 9, meaning he's far away from Araujo. And Araujo was actually playing up against Jadon Sancho, and I'm sorry that Jadon Sancho is not somebody that you would keep tracks on. In the build-up phase, when the fullbacks were high, we saw that Bruno Fernandes was actually pushing next to Rashford in order to keep tracks on the centre-backs. Therefore, a switch over to Jordi Alba because Xavi was more central, or taken by Barcelona in this phase. Over here you can see Bruno Fernandes positioning very central and very next to Rashford, and also Ronald Araujo actually was like a fullback, like a normal fullback. Therefore the switch was normally taken to Jordi Alba in order to create danger for Manchester United. United had most of Barcelona's players covered in this 4-1-4-1 formation. But Ronald Araujo's formation and positioning was different in this game, as he stayed wide as a fullback, picking up Sancho. If Bruno Fernandes would have put up against Marcus Rashford in a front two, Barcelona normally had their back three in order to cover that in a numerical advantage as well. They would either force Manchester United to press with a front three, or they would force those players back in order to be defensively sound. But this didn't happen in this game, as Araujo would be wide. Xavi also would force Jordi Alba to come forward, and then Bruno Fernandes were actually forced to come forward. At times when Manchester United was pressing with the front three, that meant that the pass to Ronald Araujo would have been extremely risky, meaning that it had to be accurate, because Fred or any one of the midfield could actually pick him up very easily, putting Barca under pressure. And therefore Barcelona would have had a back four normally, having a numerical advantage, Alba going forward, Xavi inverting, and then Barcelona would have had a normal 4 versus 3 man advantage in the midfield, which Barcelona actually aimed for by picking Xavi over there. They would have had to move forward as well, disconnecting the midfield from the front three, forcing the players also back. That meant that Frankie de Jong could have easily received the ball from Ter Stegen or Jules Koundé at any moment. Over here you can see that Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford and Bruno Fernandes is forming the front three for Manchester United. And now you can clearly see that they are trying to press the back three of FC Barcelona while cutting the passing lanes out. Ronald Araujo is extremely wide, meaning that if Ter Stegen actually wanted to attempt a pass to him over to the right hand side, it would have had to be extremely accurate. Because the only other way that Barcelona would have had to get the ball to him was either pass it to Jules Koundé first, and then they would have had the ball over to him. But by the time that actually happens, all the players of Manchester United would have had the time to come over to this side, and that is why Barcelona was pressured. I really don't understand why Xavi made such big changes and drastic changes in such a big game. But there was another problem with another player's positioning, which is actually Frankie de Jong's. And let's see what was wrong with Frankie de Jong's positioning. Usually in the build-up, Barcelona actually had Frankie de Jong in this position where he could receive the ball much easier because of the cutting of the passing lane, where he would actually look to pull up. But the problem was Manchester United wasn't necessarily out looking to press him. They would rather sit back in midfield and actually allow him to come forward and dribble forward. This was the perfect opportunity for Manchester United to actually get the ball off of him and then play it into Marcus Rashford or any striker there to go and attack. Him being in this position also ensured that Barcelona didn't have a numerical advantage. We were actually a man down in midfield, which is why Pedri, Frankie and Lewandowski even had to drop into midfield. Here you can see that Frankie de Jong has dropped in the back line in order to build up, but nobody's pressing him. Rather, Manchester United have their 3 players back in midfield in order to cover with the 2 men up front. This was a problem because even Casemiro had the license and being free where he could clean up everything that came through. Xavi even had Frankie de Jong dropping onto Marcos Alonso's positioning because he wanted Alonso in this region right over here because he was a left footer. This was to counter Bruno Fernandes' involvement. But the moment Ten Hag saw this, he actually had the Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho has now moved on to the front, helping Marcus Rashford actually pressing better. And here you can see that he actually picked up Frankie de Jong perfectly as Jadon Sancho actually allowed him to go more right. And Bruno Fernandes actually picked up Marcos Alonso, meaning that this whole left-hand side of FC Barcelona was shut down by Manchester United, which meant the only way was to go and press and play the ball to the other side. Xavi actually did acknowledge this problem, but he actually had Frankie de Jong dropping in between the centre-backs instead of having Araujo to create a 3 versus 1 disadvantage for Manchester United. But Frankie de Jong were picked up by Marcus Rashford in this position, which means realistically Ter Stegen could only find the centre-backs. Now this was another problem for Barcelona because now they are again short in midfield, meaning that Robert Lewandowski actually had to join them in midfield to even out the numbers, which left a gaping hole in his position. This now actually meant that the centre-backs could actually go up easily because they had 2 men extra in order to counter this. Here you can see Rashford picking up Frankie de Jong, and you can actually see that they actually cover the midfield really well, and Barcelona is now 3 versus 4. And also you can see that the positioning of Lewandowski is now here in this region, and they can only switch the ball now to Ronald Araujo, which is no disrespect, your least dangerous player that you actually wanted the ball, and also Jordi Alba. But this almost never happened, the switches never happened. And here you can see that their centre-backs, Luke Shaw actually went up to look to press Robert Lewandowski if he would get on the ball. So how do we defend in this game? We also encountered some problems as Ten Hag was technically toying with us in terms of the build-up. He actually let us know very early in the game that he was committing 5 of his plays forward, notifying us that he was going to play the ball more often than not. Playing the ball right into Weghorst, that's why he was slightly refrained from the Marcus Rashford position and the number 9. And also Gavi pushed up against Robert Lewandowski in order to create a front 2. But they had a numerical advantage with Casemiro going up, pulling Pedri away from the team. And this is how they actually had a numerical advantage back at the centre-back position with David De Gea as well. The problem for Barcelona was when they pulled up to Wan-Bissaka, Jordi Alba was pulled out of position, meaning that Barcelona was short on Bruno Fernandes' position. Right here you can see Lewandowski and Gavi as a front 2 playing for Barcelona, pressing high up the pitch. But also you can see that they were actually pressing the centre-backs, meaning David De Gea was the 3rd man and Manchester United therefore had a numerical advantage. You could also see that their 5 players are very, very far away from the box, trying to get to the long balls that Barcelona would have to defend against Manchester United, especially Weghorst. And right here you can see Alba being pulled into a position where he didn't want to be. And also you can see that Malaysia actually also made a position where he would want to go. And you can actually see Ronald Araujo being far away from the center, and he would have actually wanted him to be the one defending those long balls against Weghorst. But you can see Weghorst in this position is actually up against Frank Kessié. To counter this, Xavi actually had Robert Lewandowski now pressing from an angle in order to get Manchester United over to one side of the pitch. When the ball was played into Varane, Jordi Alba would actually go up already in order to be very, very close to Wan-Bissaka. So when the ball was played into him, he would actually be in a very good position already in order to press him. And also the whole backline of Barcelona went across, with Rafinha actually making up the cover, where Barcelona would actually look to compensate. Over here you can see Robert Lewandowski pressing De Gea from an angle. You can see that he's trying to get him to one side. In this case, Jordi Alba is actually high up in order to press Varane already in this positioning, where he would actually look to put pressure on Varane in order to wind that side. This was the good thing about Barcelona, and you can see here Rafinha, as always, putting in a shift for FC Barcelona, defending really deep, and he was actually keeping tabs on Malaysia in this position right here. Barcelona had Gavi actually really narrow as well, which meant that Barcelona could actually had him covered Wan-Bissaka already, which would have allowed Jordi Alba to go and receive the ball in the region right over here. But the positioning of Alba, he should have actually been a lot more forward, receiving the ball over here, where he was able or would have been able to play balls in behind to Robert Lewandowski. But the problem with Alba's positioning, he was too far back. Right here you can see that Xavi is tying up Wan-Bissaka. Jordi Alba is actually receiving the ball right in this region, but he should have actually been in over here in order to be able to create pressure. Would have drawn. This is where the three centre backs would have been perfect, because then Alonso would have been very close to Alba. Like over here, Frankie de Jong is keeping everybody narrow as well. Where Alonso, where they had the three, Kessie is actually part of a back three. Alba should have been in that positioning in order to create some problems. Right here, yet again, you can see Xavi tying up Wan-Bissaka. Alba moving in behind, and he would have actually been able to perfectly clear and make some problems for Manchester United in that position. In the end, it was a great game to watch. It was end-to-end stuff, but it was not great of quality. It was just that both teams was making a lot of mistakes in this game. And if you liked the video, please do subscribe to the channel, as it would help us a lot. It would help us to stay encouraged to make these kind of videos. And thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.